About 83% of you guys are not subscribed. Subscribing, clicking that like button, and commenting all help me out a lot in doing what I really want to do. Thank you guys so much for all your support.
What is going on, guys? Rogue TCG here bringing another Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG deck profile following this latest ban list. TIDAL has come back. Our beautiful baby boy has returned with his babyer boy stream, Dragon Rule of Droplets, to help out Atlantean. And I am so here for it. And it actually does increase the power of the deck quite a bit. So I'm going to walk down the card by card, and I'm going to tell you what I think this deck can do. So this deck is a water deck. The main focus of the deck is to get our Atlanteans in the graveyard, specifically Atlantean Dragoons. When it's sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect, we are able to add a Sea Serpent from deck to hand. That's not a once per turn. It is a mandatory effect, so it is going to be Chain Link 1 or 2 if we have 2 Dragoons. But this does trigger if we do send it to graveyard with Stream's effect in order to get a title from our deck, or if we send it to graveyard with titles in hand effect in order to dump a monster from deck to grave. So there's a lot that we can do with title in this list, especially including Stream, because it does give us access to more level rank 4s rather, better synchro monsters, and lots of access to our title. So starting off our list, we're on triple Neptibussi, the Atlantean Prince. We can, on Ignition, we can send an Atlantean from deck to grave except for itself, to add an Atlantean from deck to hand except for itself, and if this card is sent to grave to activate a water monster's effect, we get a reborn Atlantean other than himself. Really strong stuff. We can send a Dragoons to add a Dragoons add something else, and then if it's sent to graveyard, for example, off the effect of an Abyss Megalo, we can special summon a Dragoons back from our graveyard. Really crazily strong stuff. Really good normal summon, and we are playing 1-for-1 for that. Dragoons, I already mentioned it. It does have an additional effect where level 3 or lower Sea Serpents can attack directly. However, the game, there is not too many level 3 or lower Sea Serpents in the game. There's only 2 pages of Sea Serpent water monsters in the entire game, which baffles my mind. So we are on triple Dragoon. We're on double Atlantean Heavy Infantry. If this guy is sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect, he gets to pop a face-up card on field. Really strong stuff. And if he's normal summoned, we get an additional normal summon. So really crazy stuff. So we're just playing 2 of it. You do see we have a third one in the side deck. This is a potential side deck card if you did want to side it. We're on a very small mermail package. We're only on double Megalo and 1 Abyss Scale to Mizuchi. Megalo on summon gets to search Mizuchi, and you can summon him by pitching 2 waters from our hand to the grave, so it triggers our Atlantean stuff, including the Neptibus from hand. And then you are able to tribute a monster to have it attack twice during the battle phase of this turn. There doesn't need to be a battle phase in order to tribute a monster, so you can just tribute your Neptibus to theoretically attack twice, so there's always that. And then we're on Mizuchi, which is a mandatory negate on the first spell your opponent activates. It negates at resolution, kind of like the Utopic Unicorn Equip card. So it can stop Super Poly. It can stop stuff you can't react to, like Droplet. Really crazy card. We are on triple Deep Sea Diva. Being able to summon Neptibus from deck is crazy. Really good for synchroing too, because it's a tuner. We're on triple Deep Sea Minstrel. We can pitch this in another water in order to look at our opponent's hand and rip a card out. Great for searching for Droll as our first play of the turn. Great for searching for Nibiru, Valor, Ash, what have it. And the card that you do banish is returned to their hand at the end of the turn. And if this guy is special summoned, we get to basically mill 3 and then put 1 card from our graveyard, that's level 4 lower water, back into our deck. It can work sometimes, however, we're not really utilizing it for that effect. I did mention we have Stream. We can pitch it in another Dragon or a Water to special summon Title from our deck, and it can't attack this turn. You can lose each effective Stream once per turn. So we're playing 3 of it in order to max it out, because it synergizes so with our Atlanteans. And then, of course, that 1 Title. If it's in our hand or graveyard, we can banish 2 Waters and or Dragons from our hand or graveyard, except itself to special summon it from your hand or graveyard. During the opponent's end phase, if it was summoned that way, it bounces back to hand. You can pitch it in another Water to the graveyard to send a monster from your deck to the grave. Any monster. Really, really strong stuff. Although we do get water locked kind of early in this deck, so we are kind of a little bit locked into water. And if this card is banished, you can add 1 water dragon from your deck to your hand. We only have 1 other target in the deck for that, and that is the Stream. But it is just a way to thin the deck if that does end up occurring. We are on double Silent Sea Nettle. If we control a water, we can special from our hand, and we can you can't special except for waters for the rest of the turn. So this is kind of like one of our later extenders. Although our extra deck is entirely water. There's only one card in the entire deck that isn't a water that we might want to summon before that, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. And then if it's in the graveyard, you can banish the target 3 waters in your grave and shuffle them into deck. Really, really strong stuff, shuffling your Dragoons or your used Atlantean cards back in your deck so you can keep utilizing and abusing them. So we're on 2 of that. We're on 1 Moon Glacier, the Elemental Lord. It's searchable with Dragoons. It's the Sea Serpent and must be special summoned by having exactly 5 waters in your graveyard. And when it's special summoned, your opponent has to discard 2 cards, random cards. And then if it leaves the field, you skip your next battle phase. So if you link it off, you miss your next battle phase. You're giving them a turn, but you did get to pitch 2 cards from them, which is the important part, and which is one of the main central focus points of the hand rip portion of this deck. The main thing with Atlantean now is it doesn't actually hand rip. It's more kind of like a combo synchro deck. So there is that. However, I do believe the deck is quite strong still. We're on 1 Lapis Dragon. It's a card that we can search. That's a tuner that special summons itself from hand when you do search it. We're on 1 Shathana just because it's a pretty decent water starter and extender. The main card we want to be sending to graveyard with TIDAL is going to be a Distressy, the Lost Dragon's Frisian, to make a level 7 Synchro, which we do have in the extra. We're on Triple Nibiru the Primal Being as one of our hand traps of choice, as well as Triple Infinite Impermanence as our second hand trap of choice. Triple Deep Sea Aria, able to banish a water from our grave to add a level 4 lower Sea Serpent from deck to hand, namely Deep Sea Diva or Deep Sea Minstrel. However, if we do add Minstrel with it, we have already added a card from deck to hand, so we can't play around Droll at that point. Again, I mentioned the 1-for-1 in order to grab the Nepta Bussy. We're on triple Tactics Talents and the 1 Call by the Grave. In our extra, we're on 1 Miss Starboy. This guy actually does come up somewhat frequently as of right now, just because he buffs all your waters by 500 and everything in the deck is pretty much a water. If you have 4 guys on board, this gives you an extra 2k stats on board, which is pretty decent. We're on 1 Mermail Abyss Lacia. Needs 2 fish, sea serpents, and or aquas. Monsters have points to gain 500 attack and defense. And you use each of the following effects once per turn. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can send 1 other card from your hand to the grave. Add 1 Mermail card from your deck to your hand. If this card is in its owner's possession destroyed by your opponent's attack or card effect, you can send 1 water monster from your deck to the grave, then target a water monster in your grave and special summon it. Insane effect when it's popped, almost never going to happen because your opponents have eyes and they can read it. However, its first effect is really crazy, especially if off of one of your Dragoons at end of turn you search an infantry. This functionally says pitch a card that functions as a Trident to add a Mermail from deck to hand, adding our second Megalo. We're on double Coral and Enemy, just allowing us to target a water with low stats in our grave and special summon into a zone it points to, and then locking us into waters for rest of turn. We're on 1 Zelantis because it's a, it's a link for water, pretty decent. We're on 1 Great Bubble Reef, which is allows us to get advantage whenever stuff is banished, as well as allowing us to banish stuff to draw cards, so it lets us dig through our deck for non-engine a little bit. Really nice stuff. And then that's it for our links. We're on 1 Bahamut to pair with the Toad, 1 Abyss Dweller, and then 1 Mermail Abyss Gyos, which is kind of like a Dark Ruler No More, like one-time negation thing, more like the Sun Avalon continuous trap. Neat little thing with Dragoons. If you detach Dragoons off of a Bahamut Shark or Dweller, it counts for being sent to the graveyard to activate a Water Monster's effect, and you get to trigger your Dragoons, which is really quite nice. Now for our Synchros, which is going to be this like secondary half of our extra, half as links, half as Synchros. We're on 1 Brionic because it can trigger our Ice Barriers. 1 Deep Sea Prima Donna. This is the main thing we want to make with Destrudo. It has the effect ratings of a tuner and a non-tuner. Your opponent can't target Synchro monsters that use this card as material with monster effects. You can use each of the following effect of Prima Donna once per turn. You can target one of your opponent's banished cards, add to your hand or special summon 1 level 4 or lower water monster from your deck, and if you do, add that target to their hand. So ideally, this would be the card that you ripped out of their hand with Deep Sea Minstrel. There is that. However, most of the time, if we are making this, we're not really going to be using that secondary effect because we just want to be making, for example, an Agarine or a Chungus that just can't be destroyed by a card effect, period. Or sorry, not destroyed, can't be targeted, period. I apologize. But that secondary effect is quite strong and can pair with quite a lot of good cards. I do have 3 in the side deck that I was looking at. There was also Tear Limit Rhino Heart that crossed my mind. That's another card that can be special summoned off of that card since it is a level 4 or lower water. But we are on 1 Dragite, a Spell Negate, 1 Chungus, just a really good card and gets really large, and then 1 Agarine because it's also a really good card. In our side, this isn't a full side deck. Marksman is a card that pops set cards, so it's really good against back row strategies. Cards that I was considering for the Prima Donna. I was considering Marincess Basilima. Its protection, if a monster we control be destroyed by card effect, we can banish it from your graveyard instead. And then when it's banished, it gets something a stat boost. So it's just like a branded opening in graveyard functionally. There was Crystal Girl. If this card's normal or special, you can activate this effect during the end phase to add a level 5 or higher water from deck to hand. Or if you control level 5 or higher water and it's in your graveyard, you can special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. So if we can send it to graveyard, for example, with something like TIDAL, or we special summon it from deck with something like Prima Donna and then link it off, we can bring it back for an extra material. It is also a level 1 monster, so we can pair it with something like Lapis to go into a 6, like Brionac, without having to use our Neptivus. So that's something interesting. And then one of the last ones was Glacial Beast Polar Penguin. If it's special summoned, we can target a monster our opponent controls and bounce it. So it's just turning the Prima Donna into a bounce. That's functionally it. Another card is Fishborg Launcher. That's an old card. However, it worked a lot better with Halka-Fibrax back in the day. But that is pretty much the deck profile. I want to hear your thoughts. Please let me know what you think on the deck. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a top tier contender. However, I do think it has a lot more teeth than it did a month ago. So I do actually like this deck quite a lot. So again, please tell me what you think in the comments, and I'm going to be seeing y'all later. Bye-bye.
Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you wanted to talk to more Yu-Gi-Oh players like yourself, I would highly recommend checking out our Discord server. Link is going to be in the description, as well as the QR code on screen. We do talk somewhat frequently about Yu-Gi-Oh and the current meta, so I would really enjoy to see you there. As well as we do recently now have channel memberships available on our YouTube channel, where we have 3 different tiers. We have Super Supporter at $2 a month, where you get loyalty badges, emojis, guaranteed comment responses, a shout out at the end of every video, as well as access to the members only Discord channel, where you get early sneak peeks at future videos. There is the Giga Supporter at $5 a month, where you have early access to all new videos about a day or two before they go up, as well as all the previous offers. And for $15 a month, we do have our final tier, which is going to be Femboy Fanatic. You get a guaranteed customized video every single month, as well as 1 hour of my time. Could be for anything you'd like. You want a duel? Absolutely. You want me to help build a deck? Absolutely. You want to play some Helldivers? Sure. I'll do anything for an hour once a month. But supporting does help me out quite a lot, and it does help me produce all of these videos. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be seeing y'all later. Bye-bye.